Insurance company and
Got sinus issues or trouble hearing? What about tonsil issues? Don't let discomfort hold you back. Intermountain Budge ENT Clinic is here to help. With expert care in ear, nose, and throat health, Dr. Matthew A. Wilson provides personalized treatments, including thyroid surgery, to get you feeling your best.
Budge ENT's doctors really listened to me and found a solution that works. I finally feel great again.
Breathe easier, hear clearer, and live better. Call Budge Clinic ENT today at 435-716-1420.
It is critical we keep AM radio in all cars and all trucks. Hey, Sean Hannity here. More than 80 million Americans depend on AM radio. It is the backbone of the emergency alert system, and that keeps us safe in dangerous times because when cell and internet services are down, AM radio might be your only lifeline. Now text AM to the number 52886. Tell Congress that we need AM radio in our cars. Text AM to 52886 today.
Standard message and data rates apply.
It's time for the Garden Guide with your host, Mark Anderson from Anderson Seed and Garden.
New research suggests that people are more likely to eat vegetables if they have a tempting name.
What would life be without a homegrown tomatoes? Only two things that money can't buy, and that's true love and homegrown tomatoes.
From gardening to landscaping.
Today we are going to try and create garden eyebrows. Kind of like the flowers are sprouting directly from your hair. That makes sense.
Phone lines are open at 753-KVNU or 800-369-KVNU.
Kind of like eating vegetables.
It's the Garden Guide, now on KVNU 610 AM and 102 FM.
And we welcome you to the show on a beautiful Saturday morning. You know, Mark, with the snow and the rain that we've had, it's just gorgeous to look outside and see a clear blue sky on this Saturday morning.
We got green mountains with a little snow on the top, and it's beautiful. Valley's beautiful right now. Everything's starting to leaf out. Trees are in bloom, and it definitely wasn't as cold as I thought it was going to be this morning. So they were talking kind of chilly and frost, and I got up this morning, and it's like, no frost at my house.
Good.
So maybe a little bit at your house.
A little around here at the very bottom of the valley, and but you know what? It's going to warm up quick.
That's good. A light frost like that is actually pretty good for our fruit crop because it kind of thins out some of the fruit, so you don't have like a million peaches on your tree.
On the blossoms.
Or your apricots. Like my apricot tree at home was absolutely covered. And the cherries are like completely covered with flowers too. And I'm like, I hope that some of those flowers die.
Yeah. Because it's always hard to go through and pick them.
You can't thin that much.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh man, there's gonna be so much fruit on it. So kind of a nice thing with a little light frost, but not a really hard frost. So should have protected most everyone's trees in the valley. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. Great time to be outside. We're starting to see leaves coming on the trees. Everybody's lawn's starting to perk up. We just got some great moisture.
Yeah.
You know, we can't beat that kind of water that just showed up. What do we get up in the mountains? Like between 5 and 10 inches.
Yeah. We had over an inch of precipitation here with a couple inches of snow, and so
that's good.
Use it.
Got the soil saturated again, and so all we need to do is just let it dry out just a little bit, and we can start to plant again.
Yeah.
So you know, all your cold crops can go in despite the snow and the cold and rain and everything else. You know, peas, spinach, lettuce, radishes, onions, cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli, kale, those can all go in. And we're starting to plant potatoes and carrots, beets, chard, parsnips. Those can handle the cold as well, too. They just like a little bit warmer soil than the true cold crops. And so we can plant those right now as well, too. And then bare root sale still going on at Anderson Seed and Garden. So bare root sale, we've got fruit trees, all kinds of fruit trees, everything you can think of except Cosmic Crisp. Everybody wants Cosmic Crisp apples, and they're just like, do you have Cosmic Crisp? Do you have Cosmic Crisp? And it's like, no, you can only sell them in Washington right now. So every year I order about 50, like clockwork. I just order them, and then I get the notification back. It's like, oh, sorry, we're not going to sell them to you because we can only sell them in Washington for right now. Yeah. And so the way it works with some of these new apple varieties is they'll kind of restrict them to begin with, because it takes a while to build up enough crop to be able to like sell, harvest and sell at the grocery store. So if they just sell them to everybody, then, it takes longer for them to build that crop up. So they're building the crop up in Washington first, and then all of a sudden we'll have plants. I mean, trees will be available to us.
Okay.
So we'll keep our fingers crossed that maybe next year we'll have some Cosmic Crisp. But I have pretty much every other kind of apple, and I have every other kind of peach, and all the cherries and everything. And they're still bare root. So when the trees are bare root and they're starting to leaf out, and right now they're just kind of starting to bud, this is the time you want to get them planted. And they're on sale. They're $39.99 or $44.99, depending on which variety and what kind of rootstock it's on, whether it's a semi-dwarf or a full dwarf. And so we've got bare root fruit trees still on sale. We'll probably pot all of them up next week.
Okay.
With the weather getting warmer, we're going to be 60s all week. They'll probably start to leaf out, and we'll have to pot them up, and then they're going to be $60.
Okay.
So they're just going to be more expensive to begin with. And we got some gorgeous 5-gallon shade trees and flowering trees in as well too, and those are on sale. Those are 30% off, so great pricing there. And then bare root raspberries, bare root strawberries, bare root grapes, bare root asparagus, bare root onion plants. They're all on sale right now. So it's a really great time to come into Anderson's, because we've got all these bare root plants, currants and gooseberries and blackberries and blueberries. They're all on sale right now, so it's a really good time to get those.
Jump on them.
Yeah. And then for our spring open house, which is this weekend, it's been going on since Thursday, we've got a lot of great deals going on this weekend. So if you feel like getting outside and doing a little bit of planting, we've got 4-inch geraniums that are on sale. All of our 10-inch hanging baskets are normally $28.99. We've got them on sale for $19.99, so they're just under $20. Wave petunias are 50% off. Jumbo strawberries and 6-packs are 50% off. 4-inch herbs are 50% off. We've got full flats of pansies that are in full bloom right now. They're regularly $32.50, and we've got those on sale for $19.99. So really great deals on a lot of different plants that you can plant outside right now. Believe it or not, we have tomatoes and peppers in stock, too. I wouldn't recommend them after yesterday. Probably not a great idea to plant those. But with a wall of water, they can handle the cold.
I'm going to say maybe a heat cap and you'd be okay.
Yeah, hot cap will give you a couple degrees of protection. Wall of water is going to give you about 10 to 12 degrees of added protection and encourage some early growth. So you could definitely plant with a wall of water. We do have some other really great items on sale as well, too. So I've got a pruner combo from Corona, which is a full steel handle lopper, really nice quality one with a hand pruner. They're regularly $40. They're on sale for $25. We've got some excellent 50-foot soaker hoses that are usually $30. They're on sale for $20. So those are really good, really great price for the soaker hoses. All of our hats are 25% off. We've got watering cans on sale. Tons of great deals going on in Anderson Seed this weekend. And we have food trucks at the store today.
Oh, yeah. You mentioned a couple of them are going to be in the parking lot.
We've got food trucks. So Mac Attack's going to be there, and they'll be doing all kinds of different varieties of mac and cheese. So they have lots of different ones to choose from. So they'll be there, I think, from 10 o'clock until they run out of stuff, this afternoon. And then, Gallo Fino.
Oh, yeah.
And they're doing beignet and horchata. So we've got a couple food trucks that'll be there in our parking lot, so you can stop and get a snack. You can come in, get some great deals at Anderson Seed and Garden, and it's gonna be a blast.
Okay, spring open house going through today. And then there's going to be some other activities happening next weekend. We'll get to here in just a minute.
Some great deals, some great activities happening next week. Yeah, for sure.
And we're looking for your calls. If you have a question about your lawn, your garden, something you have always wondered, what's this? How do I treat this? We're taking those calls at 753-5868. That's 753-KVNU, area code 435. Of course, easy way to get in and have your call answered. One question I've got for you, Mark, and we talked about it a little bit off the air last week, snakes.
Yes.
We have a front porch, and several years ago, snakes started to, one or two were just kind of seen in the front yard near that front porch. And that 1 and 2 snakes have now multiplied to where there's like 4 or 5.
To multiple snakes,
yeah. Which I found is actually great, because we've no longer needed our no soliciting sign, because when you've got a mess of snakes right on your front porch, it seems like people don't want to come and visit.
They don't come knock on the door. It's like crazy.
It's great. But I'm finding that every year that family gets a little bigger, and the kids don't seem to be running away. They must like living around our house because they just keep growing. So what's the best way to be able to move those snakes somewhere else?
Those darn snakes. And we have had 3 fairly wet years in a row here in Cache Valley, and so it's good conditions for a lot of those critters to multiply and to populate. And so where you live on the west side of town, it's a great spot for garter snakes and water snakes. And
because the water table is
it's like perfect. So they're happy little campers. So they've just happened to find a nice place. Usually they'll make a little burrow like underneath the sidewalk or where there's a little bit of concrete or like a retaining wall or something. And there's some really good repellents that will not hurt the snakes. So they're not going to hurt the snakes. They smell everything with their tongue, and so they're basically tasting everything that's in the air, so that they're attracted to go to different areas. The repellents that we have natural ingredients in them, and so they're made from clove, they're made from garlic, they're made from cinnamon, and they're very potent flavors. And the snakes don't like them. And so you can use that repellent to try and get them to go somewhere else. What I would probably recommend, especially if they're relatively friendly and easier to catch, and they're not rattlesnakes or
these are just typical garden snakes.
Too wet. You could try and catch a bunch of them and move them to a more desirable location, maybe to the field next door or the vacant lot out back, where we could move them to a new spot, and then put the repellent down. It's kind of hard to repel them when we're repelling them from their home, where they've lived for a while already. It's easier to get them to move when it's uncomfortable and inconvenient to just kind of come into an area. So you could definitely start by trying to move some, and definitely put down that repellent. And like I said, it won't hurt them. It just makes everything taste yucky to them. And if everything smells and tastes undesirable to them, then they'll just move somewhere where it doesn't smell and taste undesirable. It's kind of like having a couple neighbors move in on both sides of you, and they play music and have big giant parties, and you're like, well, we were kind of thinking about selling the house anyway. We're gonna sell the house.
We're gonna move on.
We're gonna move on. And it's a good excuse for us to make it happen now. So so that's how that's gonna work.
All right. So if and also, not just snakes, but this is the time of year too when we start to see a lot of rodents start to come out again.
And
voles have been an issue this summer. This winter.
Voles have been bad, and then the biggest rodents of all are just massacring the tulips right now. So we've got the deer are just eating tulips like mad. I had somebody in the other day, and they're just like, they ate my Roa arbovita down to the point where there's just like nothing on there. So there's actually some really good repellents for deer as well too. So if we start with the voles, voles, they just reproduce so fast. It's like 30 days and 2 voles are now 12. And then in 30 more days, 12 voles are now 144. and they just multiply exponentially as they get going. And so it doesn't take long for those voles to really replicate. And fortunately, as the snow melts, they're more exposed to all the predators that are out there, whether it's snakes at your house, or whether it's hawks or owls or cats, dogs. There's a lot of predators that like to eat those voles, and so their population really does decrease. If they're already in your yard, we do have some repellents that work very, very well. We do have some baits that work really well. We recommend that the baits get put down in holes or in bait stations, so it's not exposed to the elements and it's not exposed to non-targeted critters. We don't want to hurt other animals, and so we'd want to get them down in the holes if we're doing the bait, and cover the hole up so that they can't get out. They find the bait, eat the bait, hopefully kick the bucket, and then. With the repellents, they're made from castor oil, so they're very, very effective, non-toxic for people, and they hate the smell, and so they'll just leave and they'll go somewhere else. And so the repellents come in either a liquid form or in a granule form. You can try and get it down in the holes to drive them out of the warrens that they're in, but it really does work to get them to leave your yard and hopefully go to your neighbor's yard.
Yeah,
instead.
somewhere else.
Yeah, go somewhere else. Go to a neighbor's house instead. And so we can get those voles to move somewhere else. Then this fall, we'll try and prevent them from coming back, because that's when the populations really start to pick up, is in September and October, and we see the voles just really, really starting to multiply again. And so those repellents, very safe for people, quite inexpensive. They're not really expensive repellents, and they last probably around a month. You're going to get 30 days out of those, and that'll hopefully drive them somewhere else and not to stay in your yard. And same thing with the deer repellent, all natural ingredients. There's a lot of garlic, there's egg solids, there's cinnamon, there's clove, all kinds of those very strong smelling but strong tasting ingredients as well too. And I have had some customers that were getting the repellent. They were disappointed that it did not hurt the deer. So they're, again, non-toxic. They're not going to hurt the deer, but they're going to make everything taste funny.
Yeah.
And everything smell funny. And so then they'll just leave and go again somewhere else. They'll go browse somewhere else. So we've had good results with deer stopper, keeping the deer off of tulips, off of arborvitae, off of a lot of those plants that they really like to eat. Even if the deer are consistently coming to your yard, like they're in my yard almost on a daily basis, and the repellents will still work really well. They'll still come through the yard, but they just kind of avoid some of the areas where we've treated and are trying to keep them from nibbling on some of our more desirable plants.
Okay.
So, yeah, dumb deer.
All right. Well, if you have a question or a comment, phone lines are open. 753-5868. That's 753-KVNU, area code 435. And, you were having a grafting class that J.D. Gunnell from USU Extension was doing Thursday night.
That was Thursday night, yeah.
And then I know we've had a few pruning classes. Yeah. As a lot of us get out and start doing some pruning, looking at our trees, it's also probably a good time to check for diseases. Yeah. As we start to warm up and come into the spring temperatures. I know one of the things we saw on one of our cottonless poplars is kind of a blackish orange, almost looks like an oil coming off of one of the cottonless poplars. I'm thinking it's probably getting to that point where it's old enough where it's maybe time to cut it down.
Yeah. There are quite a few diseases that do get into poplars, and so there's a number of those, and there are some insects that get in there as well too. With sap really flowing in the trees right now, it actually could be some of the sap oozing out, and if there's a crack or a split in the bark, then you'll have a little bit of sap that oozes out, and then it will kind of discolor. Once it gets exposed to the environment, and so it could discolor. So it could be that. I'd have to see that for sure. But there are some diseases that we're dealing with right now, especially where a lot of our stone fruits are in bloom. And so since the apricots just bloomed, and the cherries are in bloom right now, and peaches and nectarines are blooming right now, right after they're done blooming is kind of a critical time to spray for some diseases that get into all those stone fruits that we like to eat so much. So you've got shot hole fungus, you've got peach leaf curl, you've got cranium blight, there's bacterial bud blight. There's multiple diseases that can affect all those stone fruits. And right after the blossoms fall off is kind of a critical time to try and prevent those from spreading. And so we'll use either a basic copper fungicide, so you can use copper soap, you can use anything with copper in it is really good at controlling a lot of these bacterial and fungal diseases. It's kind of a natural disease control. There's some systemic fungicides like F-stop is wonderful for using on fruit trees. We've used it for at least 20 years for fruit trees that we go out and spray. With Logan Extermination, we'll spray fruit trees throughout the summer for codling moth and for diseases. We use the F-stop consistently, and it's been very, very effective on a lot of those very damaging diseases. Like shot hole fungus will make holes in the leaves, which is annoying, but doesn't really hurt the tree, but it also damages the fruit. So then you get like spots all over your fruit as well too, so it makes the fruit less than desirable to eat. And over time, it will cause cankers to form on your tree that split open, and then you get sap that runs out. And I mean, it just weakens the tree over time. So by spraying right after the blossoms drop off, we can stop a lot of these diseases before they happen. And then if the weather stays kind of cool and wet, kind of like we're experiencing right now for the next couple of weeks. You want to spray it again, maybe 2 or 3 weeks after that first application, because then that'll push us towards the end of May, maybe even into the first part of June. And then once it really does warm up and dry out, then those diseases are much less likely to spread.
Okay.
But while it's cool and wet, the conditions are perfect for those diseases to continue to spread. So sometimes it takes a second application to really clear those up. And critical timing is like right after those blossoms drop off and as the fruit is just barely starting to form. And so, like I said, F-stop's great. Fungicide 5 is wonderful. Any of the copper fungicides would be great. So you have multiple organic options as well as some synthetic, systemic type controls as well too. So there are multiple options to try and control these diseases. The key is you've got to spray.
Yeah.
And you got to spray right after the blossoms drop off, because we don't want to affect the bees. And none of these are really toxic to the bees, but we just don't want to spray while it's in bloom. And then again, maybe in 2 or 3 weeks afterwards, if the weather continues to stay cool and wet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very
important.
Also, would it be best to prune that tree just before? Or can you spray and then prune? Because I know some people just haven't gotten out and gotten their trees
done pruning.
yet.
Yeah. Even if the trees have started to leaf out, there's still plenty of time to do some pruning. We don't prune as heavily once the trees have really started to leaf out. And if they're starting to bloom, just let them do their thing. Go. Yeah. And then as soon as they're done blooming, then you can go out and do a little bit more pruning if you need to do a little maintenance pruning, and then use your fungicide spray after that, and that will work great. If you're pruning apples and pears, just make sure that if you have had fire blight in the past, that we're treating our tools so that we don't spread that disease around. So if the bacteria from the fire blight gets onto your pruners, then you can transfer it from one part of the tree to another part of the tree and infect it. And so this is a time of year where fire blight's really going to start to spread as well too. So while your apples are in bloom, we want to spray those with a basic copper or streptomycin sulfate, so like a fire blight spray that's got an antibiotic in there, because these are bacterial diseases, so we need something to kill the bacteria. The fungicide 5 is excellent for bacterial diseases, so it works on fire blight, and our favorite is the garden phos. So the garden phos really, really does a great job to control fire blight. You can spray it on the tree. You can actually do a heavier application just on the trunk, which makes it very, very easy to apply, like super easy to apply, because you just treat the trunk. You don't have to spray the entire tree. You just do the trunk. It'll absorb it in through the trunk, run it through the circulatory system of the tree, protect the tree from the inside out from fire blight. And we've actually been able to cure trees that have been infected with the garden phos, as well as prevent them from getting infected again with the same disease. And it's been super, super effective on fire blight for apples and pears that consistently year after year are getting infected with that disease.
Okay.
Yeah. So super, super effective on those.
All right. Great questions, and we're looking for your calls and your questions. 435-753-5868. We still should talk a little bit about fertilizing, too, because as these trees are starting to leaf out and starting to blossom, boy, this is just a critical time to get those trees fertilized.
Yeah, if you are on secondary water like I am, I'm not going to be able to turn my sprinklers on till probably at least mid-May, maybe even towards the end of May, depending on when they turn the water on. And so what we've done is we've used a product like Back to Green or Hydrotane early on in the season this year, so that we don't have to worry about watering. We just let Mother Nature hit. And what the Back to Green and the Hydrotane will do is they will make it so that your water, when we do get storms like the one yesterday, it'll absorb all that water down into the soil, and then it will hold it there where your turf or your other flowers or your vegetables can even use it. I mean, these are safe products to use even in edibles, and it makes your water last longer. And so we found that by putting Back to Green on early, it has a high dose of iron in there, and iron will really, really green your lawn up. I mean, it makes it just like deep, deep, dark green. But the soil penetrant that's in there will allow all the moisture to get absorbed down into the soil, and then it will hold it there. And storm like the inch that we got yesterday will last for a week to 10 days. Like it'll keep the lawn green. I won't have to water until my irrigation water comes on the latter part of May. So it'll stretch my watering to the point where I just don't even have to worry about watering the lawn or the yard during the early part of the spring, even if we go for 10 days or 2 weeks without any storms. And it will just stay green and nice all the way through. So the Back to Green is a great supplement to a good fertilizer program because it's going to make your water 30 to 50% more effective than if you didn't use it at all. Yeah, so it absorbs and holds that moisture right in the root zone, right where the plants can get it. And it will extend your early season so you don't have to start watering early on. Like if you put it on right now, you'll probably get towards the end of May without even having to turn your sprinklers on at all because the soil is going to retain the moisture and absorb the moisture that we do get better. And then, once it starts to turn hot, then we can turn our sprinklers on the first part of June. So it's a huge water saver early on in the season.
And does that Back to Green also help fruit trees as well that have deeper root systems?
It's going to work on probably that first 6 inches of soil or so. And but a lot of the feeder roots of those trees and shrubs, they are in that first 6 inches.
Zone.
Yeah, and so it really does help with existing shrubs and trees. It helps with flower beds for sure. And we use the Hydrotane in our vegetable garden all the time. It's like awesome. Really cuts it down so I can like water once a week and everybody stays happy.
All right.
Yeah, so awesome stuff.
Great. All right. Well, Vicki is joining us on the line. Vicki, welcome to the show. And I understand you've got problems with worms in your apples. Is that right?
Yes. I was wondering, is it codling moth that we spray for the worms?
It is. So codling moth love apples and pears. And they fly in and they lay their eggs right on the fruit. And then as the eggs hatch, they're little teeny tiny worms and they'll just like go right into the apple. Then you get worms in your apple. And sometimes they infiltrate the fruit through the blossom end. And so you don't even notice the fruit's been damaged because they're going up through that blossom end where it already looks like there's a hole. And then you get like worms on the inside when you open it up. So yes, it is codling moth. And the best...
But you don't spray that till a couple of weeks into June, right?
Correct. So usually our first spray application is the last week of May, first week of June. And that is pretty consistent almost every single year, depending on what the weather does. But I would suspect that this year our first application is going to be right around Memorial Day and the week or 10 days after that. And then the second application usually hits around the first part of July. Sometimes it's more towards the middle of July. It's usually 4 to 6 weeks after the first flight because there's codling moth that will hatch that latter part of May. And then they'll hatch again around the end of June, first part of July, and then they'll hatch again sometime in August. So we get 3 flights. So it's critical that you spray right as they're really hatching out. And depending on which product you use, sometimes you can get away with just the one spray right at peak hatch on the codling moth, and it will be very, very effective at controlling your insects. You don't get any worms in your apples. So first part of June, first or middle part of July, and again sometime in August. And we will post when the spray dates are because we'll get information from USU Extension. And so we'll post that on our website. We'll talk about it on the radio show, obviously, and we'll be putting it out in social media when it's time to do that too. So we'd be happy to help you figure out your timing and what product's going to work the best for you, Vicki.
Okay. Because last year I had a ton of worms, like a worm in every apple.
Oh, that's no fun.
I had codling moth, but I only sprayed it once. So I thought maybe I sprinkled it with water after, or maybe it rained or something.
And one application is going to work on one hatching, but it's not going to work on the other two. And so you've got like 3 opportunities for them to damage your fruit. And sometimes it's that very last one in August that does the most damage. And so we got to do it throughout the summer. There's some really great products that are out. So there's 7, which is a new formulation that lasts about 21 days. You've got Sayonara that lasts about 21 days, which is a lambda cylohethrin. So and there's multiple products you can use that are a little longer lasting, but still very, very low toxicity for people. And that last spray is going to go on 6 weeks before you harvest them. So it's long gone before you harvest those apples. And so there's some great organic options as well too. They just don't last quite as long, so you have to spray a little bit more frequently. So we have multiple choices for you to decide what's going to work best for you in your orchard. Or we also have our crews that will come and spray it for you, so you don't have to worry about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if the tree is like loaded, can I just like go every other one and cut the blossom off?
You know what? I usually let the fruit set, and we'll let them get to like nickel sized or even some, maybe not quite quarter sized, but really to thin those apples out, and pears the same way. You want one fruit every 6 to 8 inches on the tree. So you don't want big clusters, because it's going to make your fruit smaller and they won't be as good a quality. So if you can thin them down to one every 6 to 8 inches at the most, you'll have much, much better fruit.
Okay. That's what I had, is just a bunch of little apples.
Yeah. And last year I thinned my peaches like crazy, and then I thinned them again, and I still didn't get enough off, and so the peaches were a little bit small.
Still small.
But they were so good. Yeah, they were really, really good. Yeah, they were so good.
Yeah.
But it's critical that you get those fruits thinned out. Otherwise, the size is just smaller, and it does start to affect the quality as well.
Okay, but you wait till it's nickel size.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, let the fruit, because sometimes the tree will shed on its own, and then it saves you a little bit of work. So if the tree will do the work for you, let's let it do its thing. Otherwise, like me out there with the peaches last year, I pulled like 90% of the fruit off, and it
breaks your heart.
It crushed me. Yeah, it crushed me every time I had to pull one of those off. Yeah. So it's just not fun. So.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for the call, Vicki.
Good day.
Have a great week.
Phone lines are open at 435-753-5868. If you have a question, comment for Mark. As we come back, we'll talk more about your fruit trees, and we'll talk about what plants can start going in your garden.
Yeah.
Starting to dry out.
And it's spring open house this weekend, so tons and tons of great deals at Anderson's. Lots of plants in the greenhouses. We just received this week alone 2,200 plants.
22 came in on 2
shrubs
right?
and trees. We actually got 4.
4 trucks.
We got 4 trucks. Wow. So trees and trees and trees and shrubs and shrubs and shrubs, and they're all over the parking lot. And we can't get them organized fast enough, but we've got like a little bit of everything in stock now. So
all right,
yeah, it's a little overwhelming, but we'll make it work. By the middle of next week, we'll have everything kind of organized and ready to go. It would be nice if the magic elves would come in overnight and just kind of shape all the trees and put them where they're supposed to go. And it's a multiple day process when you get that many plants that come in.
For sure. Yeah. All right. Well, a lot more to talk about, and we'll do that next as the Garden Guide continues here on KVNU. 30 minutes now after the hour, and with our top stories, I'm Will Feelright. A local hero and an example of perseverance, Desiree Turner has passed away after reportedly developing a deadly infection in her lungs. Family members said in a statement on Friday that it was with profound sorrow that they announced the passing of the 22-year-old woman who had tragically lost her life on Thursday night. Now, the statement read that Des was deeply loved by her family, friends, and all who had the privilege of knowing her. It went on to say that her vibrant spirit, kind heart, and strength had touched countless lives. They said that words cannot begin to express the pain and heartbreak that they're feeling. Now, details regarding funeral arrangements will be shared in the coming days. And Utah's statewide snowpack peaked at 14.3 inches on March 23rd. That matched the state's typical annual maximum, according to water officials. Now, despite a solid snowpack, extreme drought conditions continue to grip the southern part of the state, and water managers are preparing for a potentially dry summer. Candace Hassenjaeger, who's director of the Utah Division of Water Resources, said that many state agencies are coordinating their response to drought conditions that will likely intensify heading into the summer. Now, reservoirs right now across northern Utah are still showing variable levels of storage heading into the growing season. Now, Bear Lake right now is at 76% full, while Hiram Reservoir is at 74%, and Newton Reservoir is at near capacity. Well, we're going to see some warming temperatures over the next couple of days, as highs expected to be into the mid to high 50s to low 60s. Now, we will see a chance of some showers still, But as we head into next week, temperatures will get back into the mid to high 60s. And news and weather this hour brought to you by Roof Rescue. I'm Will Fiore with your KVNU news headlines.
Good morning. This is Chris Lewis. The Heat handle the Hawks in an overtime play-in classic.
Wiggins at the left elbow, stops his dribble, fires out, Hero right side three. Oh, it's good! Oh, the Heat are a cheat code in OT.
That on ESPN Radio, the Heat finished the Hawks 123-114 in the Eastern Conference play-in battle for the 8th seed. So Miami has a first-round matchup against the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Heat have made the playoffs for 6 consecutive years, and Tyler Hero in the game led the way, 30 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists. Over to the Western Conference, battle for the 8th spot between the Grizzlies and Mavericks went the way of Memphis, 120-106. So Memphis moves on to face Oklahoma City in the first round. That series begins on Sunday. Ja Morant, 22 points, 9 assists, 7 rebounds. He came into the game questionable with an ankle injury. Crazy game in Major League Baseball. Cubs beat the Diamondbacks 13-11. The teams combined for 21 runs in the 7th and 8th innings. Third game in Major League Baseball history where both teams scored 10 or more runs from the 7th inning on. Much lower scoring game. The Yankees beating the Rays 1-0. 5 straight wins for New York. Dodgers get a brilliant performance on the mound from Yamamoto. He has 10 strikeouts, goes 7 innings, doesn't allow a run as the Dodgers beat the Rangers 3-0. Francisco Lindor for the Mets walks off the Cardinals 5-4. And the Phillies behind Zach Wheeler blast the Marlins 7-2.
It's time for Anderson's Seed & Garden's annual Spring Spectacular Sale. Now through Saturday, save on several springy items. All geraniums and herbs, half off. Strawberries, also half off. Waved petunias, which are regularly $4.99, are now $2.75. Don't forget about the spring planting event coming up April 26th. Anderson stocks all the fertilizer, weed spray, and bug stoppers you'll need. All on sale through Saturday at Anderson's Seed & Garden, 69 West Center in Logan. More information at AndersonSeedandGarden.com.
The Garden Guide with Mark Anderson from Anderson Seed and Garden on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
Welcome back to the Garden Guide on this beautiful Saturday morning. Still a little cold this morning. We've been down to 32. And right now, outside the KVNU studios, 35 degrees. But we were mentioning earlier, some areas were able to avoid frost. Some got a little
Probably
frost
had a little bit of
morning.
frost. Yeah, I'm sure we had parts of the valley that froze, but definitely not into the mid-20s like they were threatening. So much better for our fruit crops and much better for my garden, too. I've got peas that are starting to pop up.
They're starting to come up.
And my onions are in, and they look really, really good. Like they transplanted very well because right after I planted them, we had that nice warm weather, and then all that rain and the snow, and it's like they're just happy little they're little happy campers right now. So yeah, I was gonna try and get my carrots and my beets and my chard planted this week, and just couldn't do it before the storm hit. So now it's kind of wet. And that's all right. But I am growing a bunch of really cool tomatoes. So I started my tomatoes like 2 weeks ago, maybe 2.5. 3 weeks ago max, and I just transplanted them into 4-inch containers, and they're looking really good. So I've got a few Brandy Master and some Cherokee Purples that we put into gallons from my class that I did this winter, and then I've got some Parks Whopper, and then I've got a new tomato that is actually one of those genetically modified ones. It's brand new.
This is the one that you're trying.
Yeah, it's called the Purple Tomato. If you want to find out some interesting information, this is called the Purple Tomato. It was developed in the UK, so in the United Kingdom, and the seeds are really, really, really hard to get, and they're very restricted, and they're quite expensive too. But I did get a few of those, so we're going to try the Purple Tomato and see how it works.
To see.
It is supposed to be the most nutritious tomato ever developed.
Really?
And it is purple all the way through. So it's purple interior as well as purple
and even the outer
exterior.
Skin.
Yeah,
it's purple.
Yeah. It looks like a giant blueberry.
Oh, really?
When you cut it open, it is like purple
Wow.
on the inside. Yeah, it's called the purple tomato. It's kind of a dumb name, but that's what they called it. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So we're gonna try it.
cool.
We're gonna see. It's a cherry tomato. It's just like loaded with all kinds of antioxidants and lycopene and all kinds of good things for you. So we'll see how it works. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, kind of interesting to try some fun new stuff.
All right.
And it'll be fun. But there's fun activities happening at Anderson Seed this weekend. So it is our spring open house, and so we've got lots of great deals. 4-inch geraniums are on sale. Our 10-inch hanging baskets are $10 off. Usually they're $29, and they're on sale for $19.99. Wave petunias are half price. 6-pack jumbo strawberries are half price. 4-inch herbs are half price, 50% off. We've got a full flat of pansies that are regularly $32.50. They're on sale for $19.99. I've got a pruner combo that's on sale. I've got a soaker hoses. I've got hats. I've got watering cans. Some really great specials going on at Anderson's, and the bare root sales going on still too.
Okay.
So we've got bare root plants, small fruits, so currants and grapes and blueberries and blackberries and raspberries. They're all on sale because they're bare root, and then all of our bare root fruit trees. And next week we're gonna have to start potting up all the fruit trees. So this is the time. If you want to get them bare root, you better get them like right now, because next week we're going to be potting those up as much as we possibly can. And so bare root sale's just about over, so come and take advantage of the good bare root pricing on the fruit trees as well too. But we've got some great events coming up next week as well too. So next week we have our planting event, which is next Saturday. So next Saturday we're doing our planting event. That's when you can bring your containers in or buy new containers, pick out the flowers that you want, pay for your flowers, and then we will pot them up and provide the soil for free and the labor for free. We might charge you for some bark down the bottom if they're really deep.
Mm-hmm.
We'll put some bark for drainage down the bottom. We'll charge you 50 cents a scoop for the bark. It's very inexpensive. And then if you want to get some fertilizer for them as well too, but we'll provide the labor and we'll provide the soil, and we'll pot those plants up for you and load them up in your car and send you home. So containers need to be 24 inches or less. We're not going to do the cattle trough.
Typical containers. Yeah,
typical
we're
containers.
Looking for average containers.
Yeah, so 24 inches or less, and don't bring 50 containers. We'll do 5 or 6 for some of our customers. We'll do 2 for some of our customers. Within reason.
Yeah.
You want to do that because we want to take care of everybody who's participating. If we run out, then that's not very fun. And then to participate in our planting event, you have to sign up online. And so we've got reservations available throughout the day. And you sign up for a specific time, let's say 2:30 in the afternoon. You sign up for 2:30. Come in at 2 o'clock, and then we'll have people there available to help you find what you're looking for. They'll help you pick out the flowers, maybe help you design your planters, and then they'll send you over to the potting tables at 2:30 when your reservation is, and then we'll pot them up for you and send you out the door. You don't have to wait in line that way. It's turned out to be a really great event because when we get everybody on the reservation system, then there's no lines. Because we've got 8 reservations every 15 minutes, and we can just run people out the door very consistently. That way, we'll have extra help, and it's a lot of fun. It's a really fun day, and we'll do all the planting. We'll provide the soil. You buy the flowers. You buy a new container. Bring your older containers, and maybe buy some bark and some fertilizer to go with it, and away you go. Yeah, It's a really fun event. And then we're starting our compost tea next week. So our compost tea party is on Friday. So compost tea is going. We kind of started a few batches right now. So if you really wanted some, you might be able to come into Anderson's and get a refill already.
Just to try.
Yeah,
the first couple of batches.
We started it up, but it's kind of cold, and it works better when it's a little bit warmer. But we did start up the compost tea this weekend. But our compost tea kickoff is next Friday. So compost tea party on Friday. It's Arbor Day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's Arbor Day.
Week.
Yeah, so get out there and plant some trees. This is the time to plant. I'm planting 10 new fruit trees at our house. So 10 new fruit trees. If everybody planted 10 trees, That would be a really great Arbor Day.
Yeah. Yeah.
That'd be an awesome Arbor Day, in fact.
Imagine the 10 new fruit trees. You're going to be doing a lot of fruit trimming.
Our orchard that we have right now is going to get damaged this year when we're going to start building a house out there. And so we got to start replacing the ones that we're going to lose in the next couple of years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's time to replace. But some of those are pretty old and starting to kind of show their age, and it's time to replace. It's time to replace some of those trees anyway. Yeah. So that's what happens. Peaches and nectarines, they have kind of a limited lifespan. We got apricot out there. A couple apples that I really don't want to lose, and the location that they're at, they're just not going to perform. So time to plant 10 new trees.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I might actually have a dozen. I think I pulled a dozen.
Great.
Yeah, some new fun varieties.
So the planting event on Saturday, compost tea starting on Friday. So a lot of events going on in the next week, and of course the spring open house today
and classes too. We forgot to mention the classes. So we've got a drip irrigation class coming up on the 15th of May, and that's with the USU Extension again. So you can sign up on their website or on our website as well too. And then we're doing some living wreath classes, and we've been doing these for the last couple of weeks, and it's really a lot of fun. And so you can take some of your cascading flowers, and then we're going to build a living wreath with it, with sphagnum moss and some different things where we can make this wreath that you can actually put on your front door, and it's alive. And so you can water it and keep it alive, and then put it back on your door, and it will bloom all summer. You'll have cascading flowers on your front door. So if you want to participate in one of our living wreath classes, there's one on the 30th of April. There's one on the 5th of May and one on the 20th of May as well, too. And so we're doing some living wreath classes, and it's really a lot of fun. We've been doing them with pansies up to this point. Now it's time to shift into some of the other annual flowers that'll last all summer long. But you can keep those suckers alive on your front door pretty much throughout the summertime if you're not fully south-facing.
Yeah.
That might be a little hot for some of those, but living wreath classes at Anderson's, you can sign up for those on our website as well, too.
Okay.
Yeah. AndersonSeedandGarden.com.
All right. And phone lines open, still time. Take a couple calls, 435-753-KVNU. That's 435-753-5868. We were talking about pruning fruit trees, talking about treating for diseases. Lawns, as we were mentioning earlier, good time to treat, especially if you want to go with like the Back to Green or HydroGuard.
Hydrotain.
Hydrotain.
Yep, the Hydrotain.
That can really, really help you, especially as we're watering right now.
Yeah. So normally our first application, we recommend that you apply it between St. Patrick's Day and Easter. And so we're still Easter's tomorrow, and so you can still apply that first application of fertilizer. In fact, fertilizer with a pre-emergent right now is the perfect time to put that on. And so a good early season fertilizer for your turf, maybe a pre-emergent to prevent weeds. We've got some liquid herbicide to control dandelions that are starting to show up. I've got tons of people coming in with burr buttercup and morning glory issues already. So weed-free zone doesn't get any better than that for turf. It'll kill all your broadleaf weeds and not damage your turf. Works great on morning glory, works great on burr buttercups, the puncture vine. Everybody's coming in with puncture vine, and they're just active right now, so we want to get those under control. But like Will said, Back to Green or Hydrotain are made to help the soil retain and absorb the moisture. And so literally I can get away without turning my irrigation system on, because it won't get turned on until mid-May anyway. But I don't have to worry about watering, because I'll apply that early on. Every time Mother Nature provides a little bit of moisture, it just pulls that down into the soil and holds it.
Nice.
It's amazing throughout the summer, though. You apply the Hydrotain, it lasts for 90 days. You'll be able to cut your water back by 30 to 50% throughout the summer and keep your lawn as green as it was before. So instead of watering on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, you can put the Hydrotain on and just do Mondays and Thursdays. You can take a whole application off for the week. So instead of watering 3 times, we're going to water twice, and your lawn will stay as green or even better than it was before. So last year we did it on my parents' lawn, which is a good sized lawn. We did it for the first time, and it was the best their lawn had looked for decades.
Nice.
Yeah, better, the best. Like it was amazing. Like I couldn't believe the difference. And we were watering less, and the lawn was just looking awesome. And we've got a caller.
We do. Let's go out to the phones. We have Joe on the line first. Joe, welcome to the Garden Guide.
Good morning. Thank you for taking the call.
Yeah.
I had a question about some raspberries. I've got about 60, 70 raspberry plants, and at the tops of them, they look like they're dead. And so I've been pruning them down to where there's green growth on it.
Sure.
And it's not cane borer, but is that unusual? And I'll get off the call and listen to you on the radio.
Oh yeah, no, not completely unusual, Joe. And this is the time of year where I like to trim the tops off of my raspberries as well too. So even if it's an ever-bearing variety or a June-bearing variety, we can take the top third off of those canes first thing in the spring. And then it's a really good time to fertilize at that point to encourage some new growth, because those June bearing and those ever bearing, where you prune them back, they'll bush out, and where the new growth comes off, that's where they're going to produce fruit for this year. And so a good fertilization when you prune, and then with our minimal snow cover and our really good warm weather throughout the winter time. But then we had some periods where it turned really, really cold for just like a week or two, and then it kind of went warm and nice again. Then it got really cold. It would do some damage to the tops of the berries.
The tops,
yeah, especially the tops of the berries. So not completely unusual. Just trim those all off, fertilize, a little bit of iron, a little bit of sulfur. That will get your raspberries to really start to grow. And then once you've picked those this summer, then we're going to cut those old canes out completely, get rid of the ones that just fruited, and then the new growth that comes up this spring, we're going to let that grow for fall. And if they're ever-bearing, they'll produce in the fall. If they're June-bearing, we'll leave those, and then they'll produce next spring. Yeah, and then use Cazaron on them so that we can kill all the weeds and the grasses, and it won't bother your raspberries. So fertilize, Cazaron, iron, great for the raspberries.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks for the call, Joe. And Calvin joining us on the line next. Calvin, welcome to the Garden Guide.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
You've been talking about these sprays like F-Stop 7, et cetera. You don't always use the whole bottle or what container.
Yes.
If you keep it from freezing, how long do those stay viable?
That is a great question, Calvin. If you can keep them in relatively stable temperatures, somewhere between, like, say, 40 and 80 degrees, they will last for years. Multiple years. And so you're exactly right. You're going to use a product, whether it's an insecticide or a disease control, and you're probably not going to use all that concentrate. Just keep it in a safe location where the temperatures aren't going to fluctuate too much, and you'll get 2, 3, 5, maybe 6 years out of them. The best way to tell if you've had some problems, especially if they've frozen, the product will separate, because there's like the chemical that's been mixed in there with water. And when they start to go bad, they'll start to separate. And you'll have like water on the top, and then you'll have a darker liquid down on the bottom. That's when it's time to dispose of that properly. And fortunately, our landfill here in the valley is they'll have like chemical disposal days throughout the season. Where you can bring them in and safely dispose of those. And so there's some really great options to get rid of them once they are no longer viable as well too.
Okay.
All right.
Also, just a quick question: what's your favorite pea?
That's a really good question. There's a couple different that I really, really like. So for snap peas, where you can just eat the whole pod, I love Cascadia. Okay. The Cascadia has a little bit shorter vine and a little smaller pod, but they're so sweet. They're just really, really good. And you can just pick those pods right off the vine and just eat the whole thing. So you eat the pod as well as the peas on the inside, and they're amazing. And the more they fill out, the sweeter they get. So Cascadia for a snap pea. And then for a shelling pea, we're usually going to grow Green Arrow or Perfection. And they have longer pods, so you don't have to shell as many peas out, because that's a lot of work. So we want 10 to 12 peas in each pod, so I don't have to do quite so much work. But the quality on both of those is excellent. So big pods, taller vines, great quality. You can eat them, you can freeze them, you can do just about anything with those. But those you want to shell, you don't want to eat the pods.
Well, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Love your show.
Oh, thank you so much, Calvin. Thanks for the call this morning.
And that's going to almost wrap up the show. We have just a minute left.
It's almost 9 o'clock. What happened?
Spring open house today.
Spring open house today.
Stop by. All sorts of deals throughout the store.
Tons of good things on sale. We've got our planting event next weekend, next Saturday. Make sure and get online and register for that if you want to participate. Compost tea party next weekend. And tons of plants on sale today. So geraniums, hanging baskets, wave petunias, jumbo strawberries, herbs, pansies. And we've got food trucks today.
Yeah.
We've got food trucks. So Mac Attack's going to be there. And, who's our other one?
With the horchata.
The horchata and the beignets and the name just like blue. El Gallo Fino.
Yes.
Yeah, there we go.
All right.
Yeah.
So don't miss it. It's
awesome.
this weekend.
Awesome stuff.
And